Today on Sekulow, big trouble for Kamala as tensions rise between Biden and her campaign.
Keeping you informed and engaged, now more than ever. This is Sekulow. We want to hear from you. Share and post your comments or call 1-800-684-3110. And now your host, Jordan Sekulow.
All right, folks, welcome to Sekulow. We are taking your phone calls. It is 22 days before the election. Logan's joining me as well, and we want to talk to you, 1-800-684-3110. Rick Renell will be joining us today on the broadcast as we walk through a few different kind of political stories and what the ACLJ is doing as well. First, this tension between the Harris and Biden team. This is starting to be very real. Of course, just a few weeks out. Usually, a White House of a vice president running for president would be pretty coordinated with the campaign. I mean, there's laws. They're not supposed to be exactly, super coordinated. That may not be the word they'd want to use. But, you wouldn't be scheduling things that would walk over the other person. You'd make sure that the president who maybe wasn't running wasn't stepping on the vice president who was running, and that at least the basics of just scheduling were going to be worked out so that it was something where it looked like you were still part of one big team. But that is not what it looks like with Biden and Harris. And can we play the clip now for people so they can see this is out of a cabinet meeting, and you can kind of feel like Joe Biden didn't make a slip up here. It's Joe Biden kind of being like, you know what, I'm still president. Let's take a look.
And we're going to do everything in my power to get it done. And the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, we're going to have to. I know I'm going to go to the vice president in a second. She's my boss here.
That's a trippy song.
We're going to be. Hang on a second, man. We're going to be going to the Congress. We're going to need a lot of help. We're going to need a lot more money as we identify specifically how much is needed. So I'm just telling everybody now. I don't want to hear that this is going to be the end of it. So with that, I'll yield to the president. I mean the vice president.
I mean, so that I think she tried to jump in a couple times.
Yeah, he kept cutting her off.
I'm not saying, by the way, that there wasn't a reason for her to maybe try to jump in. I mean, we were both watching it, Logan, and honestly, not even sure about what I think he was talking about the disaster aid, but the truth is,
I'm sure. I have no idea.
It was a lot of mumbling.
Yeah.
He's gotten worse since he got off the campaign trail.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't have to perform like he was even trying to then.
Yeah.
So now it's sort of the SNL version of Joe Biden, where it is this sort of stumbling, bumbling, sad.
She's
now
the SNL version of herself.
There's something about it that is a little bit sad with it because he clearly still wants to be the president. And you have these weird moments where, again, these situations where they're cutting each other off. He's saying, no, let me speak. I'll get to you in a minute. It's just par for the course at this point.
Well, I mean, just on Friday, he did the press briefing, and Harris was about to do an event in Michigan. So he got less TV coverage, her event in Michigan, because the White House called this press briefing out of nowhere. So, it's this, that would not be the norm if your campaign was synced up with the president that you served and the party. I mean, the party doesn't seem synced up either. That's not good 22 days out. I also think the idea of Tim Walz is kind of, as this goofball, has really, remember, he was the one who was going to come out and call us weird. And now he has become the goofball on the trail. The way he moves, the way he's always waving his hands around.
Yeah, we saw the shotgun video. We'll play that.
He's a military guy who can't figure out a gun. It's just kind of all the horrible things that could possibly happen on campaign to the VP candidate. They're happening to him.
Yeah, he's become, like you said, a parody of himself. Yeah. It's become this big joke. I mean, like I said, look at Saturday Night Live's coverage. It's not that too far from the real truth, which is him going on there saying, "I'm a knucklehead. I create stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
I say stuff that isn't true." You can't have that. And unfortunately, we're only 22 days away because I would like to have seen more silliness come out of this.
Also, I think they want you to kind of and be prepared to think that this is going to be easy for Republicans. Don't think that for a minute. Don't think that for a minute, because that's a game they're playing too. We'll be right back on Sekulow.
There is There's a growing rift between President Biden and Vice President Harris and each of their staffs.
Some on the Harris team say that top White House aides aren't sufficiently coordinating Biden's messaging and his schedule to campaign with what's best for the vice president's campaign. However, folks from the White House, they've been increasingly frustrated that Harris's campaign keeps putting the president in a tough spot, like when she publicly picked a fight with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over not taking her calls.
NBC is reporting Governor DeSantis is ignoring your calls on hurricanes.
Playing political games at this moment in these crisis situations. These are the height of emergency situations. It's just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish.
I didn't know that she had called, so I'm not sure who they called. They didn't call me, and their characterization of it was something that they did. It wasn't anything that anybody in my office did in terms of saying that it was political.
The governor of Florida has been cooperative. He said he's gotten all that he needs. I talked to him again yesterday, and I said, I said, no, you're doing a great job. It's all being done well. We thank you for it. And I literally gave my personal phone number to call.
He knows she needs to distance herself from him. And she said she was a part of all the decisions. She helped pass all the laws. Then you have the DeSantis mixed messaging. But the most telling part of this story is you have Andrew Bates going on the record dismissing this.
Right.
You have the White House denying this. And the most important line of the Axios story, Harris officials, her office and her campaign declined to comment.
He's worried about his own legacy now, and his legacy can't be her. His legacy has to be what he does in these last couple moments, working with the governors of North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, for example, through these hurricanes, going out and doing his own press conferences, making sure people know the achievements he thinks he's made. She can't be his achievement, because if she doesn't win, people are going to look back and say, told you so. He's the guy who beat Trump, so he could have again.
Welcome back to Sekulow. We are taking your phone calls too at 1-800-684-3110. 22 days. I mean, this is the time period where, again, as I always try to encourage people, if you want to get involved, get involved. Campaigns need your help. And it's not always, you might not be in a state where it's the presidential campaign is heavily, but there are people running at the statewide level. There's people running at the local level, and they all need your help. And remember, if you help those local candidates who are running, you're also helping candidates at the top of the ticket as well, getting more people out to vote. And I think the goal right now is when you know you've got friends and family who politically share your same values, you want to make sure they also have the right information. Or do they know where they're going to go vote? Do they know if they need to early vote? I mean, we've seen another storm forming right now in the Atlantic. Now, it's probably a week away at least, but a week away would put that 2 weeks before the election. If we have so you say we have these options in America, right, to vote early. What that allows you to do is then spend your time getting others out to vote, but also work with people who you know may, if they are seniors, if they're people who, again, health is ever in question, or just the fact that, pinning the voting down to one day, and, they've got kids and they've got lots going on. And if the lines get long, are they going to really be able to stay for 2 hours or 3 hours in line to cast a vote? You don't have to do that anymore in most almost anywhere.
Yeah, early voting begins here in the state of Tennessee in 2 days. Yeah, on Wednesday. So you can start in a lot of states, some places already.
A lot of places, and you'd be the only person walking in a lot of the time.
Yes, very quiet typically.
If not, maybe a handful of people. It's not going to take you an hour. At most, I think early voting here is ever taken me is like 15 minutes.
Now, one of the things we're obviously focused on still is election integrity. The ACLJ is working on that a lot right now. And a bit of an interesting fact that happened over the weekend, one of the guys who works here, he'll leave his name redacted, had moved here from California many years ago now, 4 years ago, had moved to Tennessee from California, like a lot of people have, made their way to the Nashville area. And what shows up in the mail for him? Multiple, we have a photo of it, his name redacted again, hopefully his address redacted, multiple different ballots. Do we have that image? Can we show it? There it is. Is it up there? It's not up there yet. We'll put it up there in just a second, because we are seeing this still happening around the country where people are starting to already receive ballots for places they don't live. They haven't lived in years. I know you saw that, Jordan. You had that happen last time.
3 last time I was in this studio, and we had moved here. and had 3 live ballots. Now, that was supposed to be because of COVID.
Yeah.
Too. That was not supposed to be because of what is the California reasoning behind this? Are they now just mailing live ballots?
And he hasn't had
it's not a request.
No.
And see, I think this is what you have to be.
This is what we got to stay on top of what's
concerned
happening
about as conservative voters. Is these are not requests for absentee ballots or requests to vote early or something like that. This is a live ballot. So if you're a bad actor and you know that all of these live ballots that are official, that if you turn back in are going to get counted.
Yeah.
They're real. So bad actors, they know they're out there in the mail. They know that they're going to people that aren't there anymore. I mean, that does open up the door.
Yeah, you can look at it. There's a lot of different, you can see the image now that's on the screen of all the different things that showed up in the mail. So this is happening. We at least know it's happening to some people who work here, that they're getting these different mailers.
There's the official ballot for Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty wild when he hasn't lived there in many, many years, that these things are still happening. And look, we don't know what the truth is, why they're doing it, if it's even massive happening, but we know now we have to stay on top of it.
Well,
we know that.
I'd love to ask people, if you're out in California, if you're out in states and you are starting to get not requests for ballots, but have you gotten a live ballot? And they all say that, official ballot or live ballot. We'd love to hear from you at 1-800-684-3110 or contact us through aclj.org.
Yeah, even comes with a sticker, so you can still walk around.
You voted.
You voted sticker, yeah.
I will tell you, I don't think the problem is as severe as it was in the last election cycle. But I think it is still a very real problem. We saw how the lawsuit coming in Virginia from the Democrats, about 6,000 people who were dead, and they had gone through and made sure that these people were no longer alive, were removed from the Virginia voting rolls. And now the Democrat party's come in and sued the governor of Virginia and the Commonwealth and said you did that too late. Why? Why are the Democrats so concerned if these people do they really believe, do they have evidence that any of those people are alive?
That is my problem with all of this, which is
why do you need to make sure dead people can vote?
It's the same idea with the voter ID. It's just another process of trying to manipulate a system and play politics.
It makes us feel like you are trying to cheat.
Right. I mean, it almost is an admission.
Right.
And that's sort of the big issue I have with all of it, which is this idea of, we're going to make it harder. We're going to take away things like that. How dare you remove people on the rolls who have passed away? I mean, that's
people write in that their parents have been passed away for 10 years and they're still on the roster. That's about the average, at least. That was the norm in America for at least 10 plus years. You'd be on the ballot because of censuses.
Yeah, we got another comment that said, I live in Los Angeles. My grandmother passed in 2013, and she is still receiving her ballots. So that is
receiving
happening.
her ballots. I don't know if something happened in California legally. Maybe it did, I guess. Yeah. Where you just get live ballots now?
I don't know. We should do some digging on that.
Because I thought that was only for special situations.
And President Trump was out in California making the big event at Coachella.
He took Coachella by storm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's interesting that he's doing those because he's playing the states. He's going places that are definitely not swing states right now and making these sort of big sweeping statements. I do think it shows that's better for the country. I got an email because I'm on the list for everybody. I got an email from the Harris campaign. And on it said, hey, we know we are only focused on these 4 states. However, know that Tennessee still does matter to us. Right. But it's done in this very we care, but we know we got to focus on Michigan. We got to focus on Pennsylvania.
We need to win. Try to bring you like you're on the inside.
Yeah, but to me, I read it as, you don't care at all about our state. You don't care about our people here. And I think that's the one difference now with Harris having to have such a limited time to run. She hasn't been able to at least even make the stops in some of these states that would not be considered swing states.
Primary run either, so she didn't go to those states just for purposes of primary voting.
I don't know if she's been to the state of Tennessee. I'm not sure.
Maybe for a fundraiser at some point.
Yeah, to look at
private kind of event
damage or something.
Maybe I don't. Yeah, did she go to East Tennessee?
I'm not sure if she went to East Tennessee or not, but still, but not for a campaign. Nothing I've seen. That's
not like a big rally. No, the closest I think she's been to here is Georgia. Yeah, which is
in one of those states. Yeah.
But I do believe that what you see by Trump, by doing that, 1, you get attention. 2, they say, what's they see there? But 3, we know what the Democrat narrative is going to be coming out of this election if they lose, and we know what they're going to try to say. They're going to try to say, if Trump wins, well, Harris may have still won like the popular vote because of states like California and New York. So I think Trump's also doing some buffering there to make sure
to try to get
that California voters don't feel like it's not worth it.
It's wasted.
Yeah, and also where he was in the area he is, those are places where lots of local Republicans could win.
Yeah.
And if you're Donald Trump now and you see how these DAs treat you and all of that, getting Republicans elected at all levels is important to you as president of the United States. More important than I think ever before. So it's not just at the state level. It's not just at the federal level. It's at the local level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we go ahead and just take one of these phone calls? Let's go to Michael, who's calling in Florida on listen on Sirius XM. Michael, you're on the air. Michael, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but there was an interview with J.D. Vance,
right?
And he was, making a point, and the news person really just completely cut him off, and then with saying they were talking about the Venezuelan
the apartments that the left said never got taken over by Venezuelans. I want to play it for people.
We'll play it when we get back from a break. It's a long bite, so make sure if you want to hear this. This is a very interesting conversation Michael brought up between Martha Raddatz and J.D. Vance. And again, sort of more shocking rhetoric coming out of the press. It was also just announced that Kamala Harris will be doing a one-on-one interview with Fox News this Wednesday with Bret Baier. So that's going to be happening at 6 o'clock. Of course, if you're going to pick someone, if you're Harris, probably Bret is probably the safest bet for you. But still, maybe having to, it's that sort of thought process right now that maybe they're entering a little bit of panic, that maybe their internal polls are saying something otherwise.
Are any of these live?
Yeah. Oh, I doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt it. We'll find out.
I mean, the CBS one now with Netanyahu and the two different answers they aired. At this point, you realize that at least, the mainstream media is so in it for Harris that they'll edit things out and they won't even realize that how stupid it makes them look.
Yeah, it just says, it's not going to be live. It will be conducted by Bret Baier in Pennsylvania, and it'll air at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday night. So that's that.
There you go. But, he's going to ask her questions that are tough, and real.
Yeah.
The thing is that, she gets tough and real questions, and she just kind of word salads it and moves on to the next.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not like anything is going to change. It will be exactly the same that we've seen before. It's just whether that actually affects any results. Phone lines are jammed right now. Wait, we got one open. 1-800-684-3110. Support the work of the ACLJ. Become an ACLJ champion if you can. That is someone who gives on a monthly recurring basis, and right now it's been a big year for ACLJ champions. Over 20,000 of you have become monthly supporters, and we really appreciate that. So do it today at any level. We really appreciate it. ACLJ.org. We'll be right back.
Tim Walz telling donors he thinks the Electoral College should be eliminated. Now, on Thursday, he says that's not the position of the campaign. Is it just another extreme Harris-Walz position that they're letting their donors know, hey, wink, wink, this is what we're going to do if we get into office? Or do you think Tim Walz just got exposed for who he really is?
The Electoral College is one of those pillars. It's been with us since the beginning. Our founders understood why it was important that we have a system that wasn't a straight democracy with a popular vote across the entire nation. And I think your core point is right. Whatever they tell us in the coming days, whatever gaps they commit, they believe that the nation would be better served by undermining those central pillars of our republic, not supporting and continuing to build on them in the way we have for the last 250 years.
In states like where we are, and we've seen extreme population growth in the last 10 years, but we're still quite smaller than the coastal elite states. And I think they'd love to just see a straight up vote, which like you said, our founders knew from the beginning would not be the right way to get a representative democracy into the U.S. government, one that people believed was actually responding to them and that also looked like them, that mirrored them and mirrored their and understood their concerns.
Their mission is really simple. They want the nation to look more like California or New York or Chicago, right? So they want the big urban centers to dominate American politics at the national level. They'd love to take away anything that allowed people who are from places like me in Kansas or people from the southern states, people from places that have a set of values that are deeply different than Harris and Walz's values. They want to eliminate us from the capacity to have and to shape political outcomes, and getting rid of the Electoral College would do precisely that.
about this, Logan? 500 hours to go.
Yeah, 528 hours until election day in America. They should be using that timer.
Most
that timer's
people
more
can start voting.
Fun.
Yeah, I mean, Drudge Report's got that timer out.
Yeah,
So
48 hours
days.
for us here to start voting. But
Yeah, I mean, and so I think in a lot of states you're already voting. That's what I was saying. This is the day, these next couple days, figure it out. Get it done. Because you're folks that I know I'm talking to and who are watching who can go and get other people out. And I want you spending your time doing that. Spend your time talking to people, encouraging them to go get in line, and also encourage them to do it while they can still do it in a quicker way. And then once you've done that, you can shift to the when they stop the early voting in your state, then you can shift to the next phase, which is and the local parties are usually organizing this, and campaigns then can tell you who's left. They know who's left, who hasn't gone and voted. That'll still be the vast majority of people, and then you can focus on that group. And so if you truly believe, like we do, and so many have said, that this election is so consequential for the kind of path our country's going on. I mean, again, every election is important, especially when you're talking about President of the United States. And you also never are quite sure what that president might encounter while they're president. But what we know is that there's two different major paths here that the country can go down. And I think that this is where it's going to happen. And these next 4 years will determine that. And it's not that the Democrats won't still be around and Republicans won't still be around, but the question is, what will the country look like if we continue to go down the path that Joe Biden has started and that Harris would like to continue with her vice presidential friend Tim Walz, who will be hopping around the country, I guess, if he's vice president of the United States as a knucklehead.
yeah, he's absolutely.
But we did say that we play this. And
Yes.
this was from the caller's question. It was about J.D. Vance, Martha Raddatz over the weekend, ABC News, trying to again say that while you're on the campaign trail, you're playing up these issues that aren't really that big of a deal. Take a listen.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem than anything else here. We've got to get American communities in a safe space again. And unfortunately, when you let people in by the millions, most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris, 94 executive orders that undid Donald Trump's successful border policies. We knew this stuff would happen. They bragged about opening the border, and now we have the consequences, and we're living with it. We can do so much better, but frankly, we're not going to do better, Martha, unless Donald Trump calls this stuff out. I'm glad that he did.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, this, I think, shows you, Logan, the media right there. She said it like this is going to become normal,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
this is somehow
Like, this
normal
is-
in America.
that we deal with this.
Just a few complexes, by the way, not a few apartments.
Yeah, we said a handful of issues. We were talking about full complexes taken over.
Full apartment complexes, a handful of those, few of those. So you're talking 3, 4.
That were handled, by the way, not that just exist.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty that exist.
And they were taken over by illegal immigrants who were part of a Venezuelan gang. And we have imagery of it with the weapons, how they took them over, and yet they still play down the idea that we shouldn't be talking about that as a failure of our immigration system. They have lost their minds. When they no longer have the ability, Logan, I think that's what it is, and their producers and their writers. Some of them are young people too. Yeah. They're not all. It's not all just because they're age.
No,
I think that they just don't know how to talk to live in reality anymore.
Yeah, and I think they're accepting a reality that we're not willing to accept.
Right.
Which is that America is going to become like this. It was going to just be,
like maybe a few
gang riddled and this problem. This is not the country we grew up in, and I think that's sort of a big issue when you look at the 70s, 80s, 90s, even to the early 2000s. It wasn't this way. It didn't feel unsafe everywhere you go. And now, sadly, I don't want to be a fearmonger. It's just that's in the back of your mind at all time. And then you're right. They don't understand who they're talking to. And I think that could even be put in the fact that if we saw over the weekend the massive success SpaceX had with Elon Musk, where you had one of their booster return system where they called it, it got caught in the chopsticks, which is the first time you'll be able to see, we have this clip, you'll be able to see a rocket essentially come back to base and get caught to be able to be reused instead of being burned out in the environment and all of that happens right now. And the impressiveness of this should not, I mean, I saw liberals and conservatives even being like, wow, this is an amazing moment for science, for space, and all of that. And then you converse it with Elon Musk, obviously the owner of SpaceX, really the inventor of it. There was an interesting soundbite from John Fetterman, Senator Fetterman, who has become, you talk about someone who has gone all the way back to someone who actually you end up agreeing with a lot of the times. Yeah. He brought up some really good points about this, which is for young people, they see things like this. They hear people like Elon Musk, and they're not immediately discounting it for how they're going to decide who they're going to vote for. And he talked about this on the news about specifically Pennsylvania and how Musk is influencing it. Let's take a listen.
Now he is using, and Musk is willing to actually show up at these kinds of rallies. And I witnessed that in Butler County a couple days ago. Musk most endorsements don't count for much in this business, but Musk is incredibly popular. And he has an appeal to a demographic that Democrats have been struggle with there. And to some people that they see him as that's Tony Stark. He's the world's richest man, and he's undeniably a brilliant guy. So I think that is a situation for Democrats we would have to acknowledge.
Sadly, those kind of verbiage like he's the world's richest man and he's undeniably a brilliant guy isn't the statement you actually hear typically about Elon Musk from the left. It's usually he's an idiot. He's got, all these problems. We dislike him. He's a bad guy.
His free speech is wrong.
They never
evil.
give him at least credit for the fact that, like, people like my son's age who are, 12 years old, Elon Musk, I mean, they don't know necessarily about his politics. They don't know anything about his personal life, but they think of him as, like you said, like Tony Stark, like a hero for tech, a hero for electric cars. And could that actually sway some voters? I hadn't thought about that really until I saw John Fetterman, because we're usually presented with these alternate reality where Elon Musk is the bad guy and Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes. Those are just the normal American things we have to deal with.
Yeah, and I think with Elon Musk, again, they've had their Soroses, they've had their billionaires, and they've been used to the party that's we've had our billionaires, they don't. I'm not talking about wealthy people who could. I'm just talking about these super billionaires. Yeah. And now the richest guy in the world jumps on a stage in Butler, Pennsylvania. While he's got all of this going on, literally was jumping. I mean, he's doing things that people mocked him for saying could be done. This was one of them, that you could catch the rocket back like this with the arms and with the flames coming down, and it then be easier to reuse the rocket.
Yeah, well,
he's doing things that environmentalists and people that care about the environment should be celebrating. But instead, they had to demonize him because he's realized his industry will only keep inventing and kind of have the ability to do that if Republicans win.
Yeah. We're going to take some more calls, 1-800-684-3110. Second half hour coming up. If you don't get us on your local station, find us broadcasting live from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern each and every day on YouTube, Rumble, and ACLJ.org. Rick Grinnell joins us in the back half.
Some people think champions are born, that it's a title that requires something only a handful can ever possess.
There are times in our lives that we are called, every one of us, to step up and serve a cause greater than ourselves.
Even when the loudest voices in the room say it's wrong, that it can't be done. It can be a difficult stand, but it's one any of us can make, including you.
You can be the change. You can make that difference.
You can be a champion. We cannot do what we do without you.
By becoming a monthly donor, you can become a champion of life.
A champion of liberty, a champion of freedom.
Please join us. Become an ACLJ champion today.
Keeping you informed and engaged. Now more than ever. This is Sekulow. And now your host, Jordan Sekulow.
All right, welcome back to Sekulow. We are taking your calls to 1-800-684-3110, talking politics on this Monday, 22 days out. And listen,
500 hours.
500 hours. I mean, it's a time to think about. I'm going to keep saying it, and then again, vote early if you can. Most places are going to let you do that. Some already have started. Some start this week. All states are a little bit different, so you'll have to. I can't go through all 50 right here, but get that done, because I think when we're talking to our people that are on, take this broadcast in, whether you listen to it, whether you watch it, your people, there's people in your circle that probably come to you for a lot of like political stuff, and they know you're involved. They know that you also care about it deeply and that you're very informed. So you want to have time to really spend your extra time making sure they go out and vote and make the right decisions too, especially if they've got questions. Whether it's young people, older people, or just the people in your circle, whether it's at church, work, or school, or neighborhood. It's kind of free yourself up as much as possible. I mean, we're all busy enough without throwing that in the mix. You never know how long it's going to take to vote. Sometimes, there's issues with we've seen that before. There's not enough people working there. It takes 6 hours, crazy stuff. And so you don't want to ever be in that situation where you say, I don't think I can stay in line. So take advantage. You try to do it early, then try to get your friends to do it early, and then work when it gets closer to Election Day, work on those who didn't, and try, make them understand why it's so important to cast that vote and to have to wait in line, even if those lines are long. But we will, I think, have half the votes already cast before Election Day.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think if you're like us, you get a lot of texts which are, "Hey, I don't talk to my wife about this, but I gotta come to you for all of your political news, or I don't talk to my other friends about this, but I saw you."
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I get my Instagram DMs are filled with that kind of stuff. We're gonna take some more phone calls at 1-800-684-3110. We talked more about SpaceX and obviously the amazing moments over the weekend.
You want to read what you saw too?
This
is like a news alert that just came out.
Last minute.
Fetterman, you're talking about how we're crazy as Democrats if we're just going to try to demonize Elon Musk when young people see this as like the future. And then the New York Times puts this out just minutes ago.
Yeah, I mean, I got the email at 11:28, or that's our time, so 12:28 your time for Eastern time. So that means like 3 minutes ago when we're doing this live. It says, breaking news: NASA sends spacecraft to study an ocean's moon habitat. So you scroll down. Of course, that's the headline. NASA launched the Europa Clipper spacecraft to study whether an icy ocean moon of Jupiter has the ingredients for life. Okay. Next paragraph. The spacecraft lifted off on a SpaceX Falcon heavy rocket, beginning a nearly 6-year journey. So again, if you go a little bit deeper, it's really a SpaceX program. And of course, Vice President Harris, in her typical answers, they asked her about space and the sky and all of that on one of the podcasts she was doing this week. So let's take a listen to her thoughts on that.
There's this whole, I talked with somebody once who said, if you just look at where the stars are in the sky, don't look at them as just random things. If you just look at them as points, look at the constellation, what does it show you? So you just outlined it, Roland. What does it show you?
I mean, I would say, I see a lot of people who talk about the stars a lot on social media, and they're usually a little bit better and a little bit clearer than that.
Yeah, is that a horoscope?
Yeah, that's what it seems like, more of an astrology kind of.
I don't think that's how Elon Musk looks at it and says, oh,
look, yeah, a crab. All right. Let's. We only got a minute till we get to the next segment. Rick Grinnell's going to join us in the next segment. Jordan,
I just wish the New York Times was fair and honest and be like, NASA had to use SpaceX to do this. It should be in the headline.
Boeing has to send SpaceX to go rescue the astronauts that are stranded there, who I got to watch launch off, which I was there. I was there in that crowd.
You didn't know then.
I told my son, they're going to be back in 5 days. And now they're still stuck up there.
They'll be back in 2025.
Yep, February. February is when they come back on that mission, because they're going to go back. 2 SpaceX astronauts didn't get to go because they had to leave room for them.
Support the work of the ACLJ at aclj.org. We are actually in federal court tomorrow for Garrett O'Boyle, that whistleblower from the FBI. So the ACLJ at work now, again, protecting their rights and those rights of those whistleblowers so that they can get that information out. He's the one that said the FBI will crush you if you try to become a whistleblower, even following the rules, which he did. So go to aclj.org and donate today. Support our work.
Tim Walz is back on the trail, sort of. Now, the campaign has decided that they can risk sending him out in small doses with limited exposure to work on energizing the demographic Harris really struggles with, white men. So he'll be seen on football-focused TV interviews, and he'll do appearances with pheasant hunting experts and digital influencers.
Yeah, that's my theory. And it never fits quite right. Never fits quite right. It's not quite right. How do you give it back?
Governor, what kind of gun is it?
This is a Beretta A400.
What they're really trying to do right now, we're starting to see that Donald Trump is leading in the polls by double digits, by about 11% when it comes to the male vote. So Harris and Walz are out there, and they're trying to get the male vote.
So you have Democrats who have demonized the men in America, calling them toxic masculinity, and guess what? They don't vote for you when you demonize them like that.
This idea that somehow Obama is going to come out and lecture black men that you're sexist if you don't vote for Kamala, and then Walz is going to come out with this fake, I got flannel shirts in my closet deal, and that's going to try to make things up with white men. It all seems so patently insulting to me.
Tim Walz with a gun and some blaze orange on going pheasant hunting is not going to work at all. People in Minnesota have moved to Wisconsin. They've lost a number of their residents because his policies have been so bad.
He walks around in a field in an orange jacket. He never fired the gun. The whole group allegedly shot one bird, but they couldn't find the carcass. And they've got dogs. These aren't just friendly pet dogs. These are skilled dogs. If you've ever been pheasant hunting, you go out in a field where it's been baited for pheasant, throw a bag down, the dogs mark it, it pops up, and you shoot it. Like, did it really
the dogs are
male
as good
voters?
as
Did he ever fired the gun and they never shot any birds?
I think these campaigns are a little bit of a bust.
All right, welcome back to Sekulow. Rick Renell is joining us. And Rick, with 22 days out, we're seeing some bizarre moves by the Harris campaign, I think also with Tim Walz. I mean, we saw this bizarre moment with Tim Walz and the shotgun and brought in the press, always kind of... I've told many candidates this before they go and do the shooting picture. Like, make sure everything is going to work, and make sure, because it can backfire literally. Two, it can look bad, and you can also look very fake if it's not who you are. Don't try and go out and act like you spend all this time pheasant hunting. It's okay. Not every American's not going to care if you don't lie about it and say that you are. And so he steps right into Rick. I mean, it's like one of the most known political traps, and the gun gets kind of jammed or something. He doesn't know what to do about it. He's got reporters there, and it's another Tim Walz, a knucklehead moment. But here's my thing, Rick. I don't really want a self-described knucklehead as vice president of the United States.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think this whole Kamala Walz campaign has proven to be fake grassroots. It's not real. It's AstroTurf. And when you step on it and you feel it, and it's supposed to be this authentic grassroots, it's plastic and it's phony, and it doesn't need any watering because it's not real. And so I think people see it. The one thing about young people, too, I've noticed this poll data showing that young people are turning away from the Democratic Party like never before. And one of the reasons why is they are genuinely interested in authenticity. They're not the Hollywood perfection crowd. They like to do videos on TikTok that are literally about nothing, but they're just happening in real life. And so I think people are smelling this inauthentic behavior, and there's beginning to be a panic. There's now an Axios story that Kamala's team and Joe Biden's team are fighting, and they're trying to figure out who's going to get the legacy of some of these issues. Kamala doesn't know whether to say that, she was with Joe all along, or she disagreed with Joe all along. This is really, I sense, a panic campaign by the Kamala Walz team.
Yeah, it feels like panic, and it feels incredibly dated. And I think that's what you brought up, Jordan, and I agree with that, which is when you watch those moments like the pheasant hunting or the drinking a beer on Colbert to try to be relatable, it completely misses the idea of why Donald Trump actually does connect with people, when on paper through traditional political strategy, it doesn't make sense that a, New York billionaire, if you just say that New York billionaire real estate mogul would connect with the normal American man and woman. They miss out completely why that's real. And some of it is that authenticity. You don't see President Trump out there having some sort of fake moment of drinking beer and shooting a gun. That's not him. We would know that's not him. In fact, he would be honest and say, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't never done these things. And that doesn't, adversely affect him. Yeah. This is some weird old politics that really we need to be doing away with, because we're not judging people anymore based on, can they shoot a shotgun? I mean, that would be like putting me in that situation and being like, we're going to buy you a brand new orange vest from Walmart and we're going to play pretend for a little while. It would feel inauthentic and fake.
Yeah, and that's why it backfired on him. But Rick, to me, that it's a sign that right now is when you kind of you put the pedal to the metal. It's like if you are the Trump campaign and you're the Republicans running out there, the candidates all the way up and down the ballot, you know that there's something going on inside that campaign is seeing that they're having to try and shift different strategies every single day. They're having trouble with the White House. They're having trouble with the Biden team. They're trying to get Barack Obama to get people out to vote. I mean, so you've got all these different strategies. They're like kind of throwing them at the wall. That's a good sign. It doesn't mean that anything is done by any means, but I think it should be encouraging to conservatives to say, put it all on the line now. Get your schedule, make sure you know when you're going to go vote, get your friends out to vote, and then work on the people in your community and make sure you get them and go in to vote for the right candidates as well, and spend that time the next 22 days to make sure in this extremely important election that the right people win from the top down or down up. And I feel like from the Democrats, and again, I don't think that anything's been decided yet. So this is not to say, but it's like a moment right now where they're not really sure what their message is. Let's just move ahead. Let's move ahead strong and be honest with the people. Keep talking to the American people about what they care about.
Well, look, the one thing that we've learned through these elections in the midterm and through 20 is that we have to swamp the vote. We have to go way far and above to protect ourselves. And so people need to hear very clearly that it is time to double down right now. Call everyone you know. You cannot take anything for granted. But the reality is her campaign is a mess. Now is the time to pounce, because with 3 weeks left, I sense that the media are getting a little bit annoyed by her. I sense that they're starting to get to the end of their feuds, and it's beginning to break a little bit on the phoniness that she has. So now is the time to go in. I mean, her messaging, I'm in Macomb County, Detroit, Michigan right now, and I can tell you that watching the commercials in Pennsylvania and in Michigan, if you live in those two states, you see nonstop commercials. But she really hasn't settled on a message. She's all over the map on different messaging. She's trying everything. She's trying hard-hitting. She's trying the bio ads of like, who she is. She's trying to be nice. She's trying to be mean. She's trying to have other people speak for her. She's speaking. She doesn't really have a coherent message. And I think that's indicative of a campaign that is adrift and nervous.
Yeah, and that's why I think, again, that message you said, Rick, is that we've got to, again, take that moment, get people educated, up to speed, make sure you know where you need to go vote, make sure your friends where they need to vote, and also talking to people. Make sure it's, again, I know that people get nervous, but you know what? When you're 22 days out, Rick, I mean, most people in your community, they're going to cast a vote for President of the United States. They are. I mean, most of the people we're talking to right now, it's not just them that will cast a vote. It's their networks, like their circles of friends and family are going to as well. And because of that, it's like this is the time. If you think it was like, I don't want to bring it up during this holiday or that holiday, 22 days out, you're open to talk about these things. And I don't think we have to stop being afraid to either put the bumper sticker on the car or the yard sign in, to let your neighbors know, let your friends know that, hey, you know what? It's okay to say you're going to vote for Donald Trump or you're going to vote for this other candidate that's on the ballot. And that, yeah, the media has been nasty about him, but who cares? The media is nasty about everything that we like at this point.
Yeah, and the media has demonstrated over years that they really don't want alternative information. They want to just push and regurgitate what the ruling party has. People are really sick and tired of this one-sided media. I'll tell you the people who are the most annoyed are first and second generation Americans, because they have seen this fascism and propaganda in the countries that they left. They came here to America in order to escape that and to have personal liberties, freedom, and capitalism. And what they're finding is remnants of their old countries and the system where the propagandists, the ruling media, protects the ruling party and weaponizes the government against its political opponents. I hear over and over first and second generation Americans saying there is something wrong with what's happening in America and we must fix it.
Rick, we only got about a minute until we have to go to break, but what broke over this entire broadcast is that Kamala Harris has now agreed to do a Fox News interview with Bret Baier. Obviously, this comes after not wanting to debate on Fox, really pushing back against Fox. We saw Tim Walz do an interview with Fox, and now Harris is going to do a one-on-one, not live, of course. But I was curious what your thoughts on or why she's agreed to this and why now.
Well, it's interesting because it's the last 3 weeks. They're panicking. They literally are not building momentum in any group. And so the criticism is that she isn't tough enough. She can't take media questions, and she's vapid. And so she's trying to combat that by now going into Fox with a controlled Bret Baier interview. But let's see what happens. Hopefully Bret Baier will ask her the tough questions. Certainly the breaking news about her plagiarism in her book, the media have a responsibility to talk about plagiarism since they write every single day, and there's always a concern about who plagiarizes, who steals people's and other content. And now we see that Kamala Harris did this.
Yeah, I mean, Rick, as always, we appreciate your insight. I mean, again, it's like we said, it's will he ask the tough questions? Will she flounder? And will it be shown in a way that actually to the American people about what it was like to be there trying to get an answer out of her? Or does she, in this question, she somehow comes up with, okay, I'm going to say these one-liners. I'm going to do that. I mean, it's again, you never know who you're going to get. Most of the time you get the Kamala Harris of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And lately you've been getting the Tim Walz of Saturday Night Live as well. We just, I think, like Rick said, it's the moment. Make sure we utilize these moments when their campaign's in flux to get our people out. And again, this is about winning now. 22 days out, it's about winning minds and then winning votes.
There is a growing rift between President Biden and Vice President Harris and each of their staffs.
Some on the Harris team say that top White House aides aren't sufficiently coordinating Biden's messaging and his schedule to campaign with what's best for the vice president's campaign. However, folks from the White House, they've been increasingly frustrated that Harris's campaign keeps putting the president in a tough spot, like when she publicly picked a fight with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over not taking her calls.
NBC is reporting Governor DeSantis is ignoring your calls on hurricanes.
Playing political games at this moment in these crisis situations. These are the height of emergency situations. It's just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish.
I didn't know that she had called, so I'm not sure who they called. They didn't call me, and their characterization of it was something that they did. It wasn't anything that anybody in my office did in terms of saying that it was political.
The governor of Florida has been cooperative. He said he's gotten all that he needs. I talked to him again yesterday, and I said, I said, no, you're doing a great job. It's all being done well. We thank you for it. And I literally gave my personal phone number to call.
He knows she needs to distance herself from him. And she said she was a part of all the decisions. She helped pass all the laws. Then you have the DeSantis mixed messaging. Mm-hmm. But the most telling part of this story is you have Andrew Bates going on the record dismissing this. Right. You have the White House denying this. And the most important line of the Axios story, Harris officials, her office and her campaign declined to comment.
He's worried about his own legacy now, and his legacy can't be her. His legacy has to be what he does in these last couple of moments, working with the governors of North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, for example, through these hurricanes, going out and doing his own press conferences, making sure people know the achievements he thinks he's made. She can't be his achievement, because if she doesn't win, people are going to look back and say, told you so. He's the guy who beat Trump, so he could have again.
All right, welcome back to Sekulow. We are taking your calls too. 1-800-684-3110. Logan, final segment. Let's get to it.
We got a lot of calls right now. We still have one line open, though. You can call in. Anne's calling in Pennsylvania on line 1. Anne, you're on the air.
Hey, guys. Thank you for all that you do. You guys are truly amazing. Truly, truly amazing. And I'm very grateful that you're not pushing the early vote thing, because this massive push to early vote doesn't address standing up to the potential fraud in the upcoming election. Voting for several reasons is such a personable choice. Election day voting is pivotal. No problem. I have no problem with early voting as a result of what took place in 2020, but early voting should never, ever, ever become the norm. It's also not pointing out the potential vulnerabilities with early voting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different types of early voting. So I don't want people to get confused. And this is where I think it's important. I think voting by absentee, I think, is your last option. Like, that's the mail. The mail gets kind of weird.
There's a lot of counted unless they're needed.
Right. It's the last ones usually that get open, and there's a lot of rules that if you don't follow exactly right, and they're different in every state, you don't use the right color or the right pencil or the right pen, and that gets tossed. So I get that. Early voting is on the same machine. It's in the same ballot as Election Day. And what you need to do as a party is make sure that your core supporters have got the votes in. And here's why. Every party knows. And this info is easy to get because you can figure it out based off how many people have voted in certain areas of a state that's like a battleground. And if that area that about 70% of the voters are Democrat, or 55% of voters are Republican, and this many percent have actually voted, you kind of know how many votes you've got in the bag. And that's why parties and the left has been able to usually say, we already know that we've got, this many votes in this place. We want to be that party too, right? Because what does that do? It frees up our activists and our people who are most involved to not have to worry about lines on Election Day. I'm not telling, by the way, if you want to be an Election Day voter, that's up to you. I mean, totally. If that's the way you want to do it that way. But I do think that if you are an activist as well, it can be difficult to plan because you don't know how much time you're going to have. And it's usually a little bit more. It's not with early voting, you can choose from a few locations and one that works out best for you. So again, I'm not saying that all kinds of early voting is great. And I think that what I'm talking about is you're going in, you're using the same ballot you're voting the same way that you would on Election Day. Absentee requests and things like that, I already think we're past most of those deadlines anyways.
Yeah, we have a lot of calls coming in about these kind of different things.
Yeah, I know.
So let's just kind of rocket through them. Let's go to line 6, Warren, who's been on hold for a long time. Warren, thanks for waiting. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks for taking my calls. Encourage people again to become ACL champions. It's awesome. But also, like the lady was saying, or you guys are saying, we need to watch the polling drop boxes. People need to video those, because we know they're doing everything they can to cheat, lie, and steal. And they will do whatever it takes to remain in power, and we need to get out and overwhelm the vote. But also watch for that kind of thing that they're doing.
Yes. I mean, I think, listen, the Republican Party has spent more money than ever before on election integrity. Here at the ACLJ, we've been working on election integrity issues for 2 years in court. To make sure you can cast a vote for the candidate of your choice, to make sure, again, that you are going to the rules, that we've done research projects for members of Congress to make sure they understand as they are looking at federal laws, what was the nature of kind of what were the laws post-COVID in these states that changed sometimes the rules in the middle of the campaign last time. And so we've done all of that work at the ACLJ. The RNC has put in a lot of money into this. The Trump campaign has put a lot of money into this. But I think you heard the message loud and clear, Logan, from Rick Grinnell. And this is the truth. For us to win, and we know this from 2016, we have to win big. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that we have to win by millions of votes in every state. It means that we don't want to get down to those 1,000 votes, because we know that the other side's better at doing these games. With the ballots we're seeing from California, from our own staff who haven't voted there, it seems like there's more coming out.
There's calls about that. Let's go to Kate, who's calling online too.
This is something we need to look into, by the way.
Yeah. Kate, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. First, I wish I could work with Rick Grinnell. I just love him. Second, I received 5 different ballots at my house this year, 2 in one person's name, 2 in another person's name, and yet a 5th in yet one more person's name. And they've come at separate times. And I have not voted yet. I have not early voted, and I do want to do that. But I really encourage people to keep an eye out on them. I don't know what to do with these ballots, but I guess burn them or something. But this is the type of thing that's been happening at my house for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, you could keep them. I don't know if you want to just toss them in the trash. I don't know if that's the best idea. I think, again, you got shredders, things like that, or just keep it. Keep it in your drawer, and maybe that's the best way to tell your friends. I'm going to tell our team who's listening now, because we've had team members at the ACLJ in California. We've now gotten calls about it, to check and see what is going on, that these ballots are going out to people, even in other states. Yeah. So, I mean, we've had people who have not voted in 4 years, have not lived, paid taxes in, done anything else. I mean, they've moved completely their lives out of California, and California found them in a different state across the country and sent them a live ballot. Not a request.
Actual ballots with the I voted stickers.
Ballots. So they can put their right for president of the United States. The president. These are general election year ballots, and if you were to mail this in, I don't know what system could possibly be in place at that point that would flag it.
Let's go ahead and take Patricia real quick in California. Patricia, you're on the air. Just quickly, run out of time.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm in California. I voted for Donald Trump the last season. I was a Democrat for over 20 years. Now I'm in the Republican Party, but I feel a little bit like I don't trust the polls. And I wasn't sure, since I have my live ballot, my whole family is now Republican, and we wanna vote, but I don't know if I should mail in my vote or I should go in person. So that was really my question.
You know what I would do? I think I like this idea: early vote if you can. So
in person.
Don't necessarily use the mail. So you go in person, but if you've got time now, check it out, look it up, and go do it. You
likely got counted.
And you don't have to necessarily wait till election day when you can't predict you being sick, kids getting sick. You got to go to this. Work goes long. Emergencies that happen. Traffic jams. Also, sometimes, I mean, there's problems with the voting machines that are legitimate. Like, these are, we use kind of voting places sometimes. The electricity has issues.
Yeah, the community, public schools and all of that.
And certain elections in certain areas, you get much bigger turnout, and there are hours-long lines. I mean, so get your vote in. I'd say if you can, the best way to do it is still in person, but you can do that early. That's not absentee. That's not mail voting. And some states only have mail voting, so those people, they're used to that.
The ACLJ, we're going to be on the front lines of election integrity as needed, so we're already making sure that we are activated where it is important, because these values and these issues that we talk about are really on the ballot as well. And you can do that right now. Scan the QR code if you're watching, or go to aclj.org and become an ACLJ champion. Support the work that we continually do here. We'll talk more about that on tomorrow's broadcast.